Hi, so I'm Courtney. I'm the president of Artists for Change, and we have one of our winners from the challenge here today. And could you tell us your name?
Escobar-Mendez.
All right. And what is your year, major, and just share some interests that you have?
I am a political science and global studies major. I am from Washington, D.C., class of 22, and my interests are um, just exploring, enjoying life, and just taking any opportunity possible.
Awesome. All right, so when did you start like first working on poetry? Because you submitted mostly poems. I know you had like one collage in there, and you also had some like photography. So could you just share like when you first started really developing that skill and like doing that?
I personally am not really one for poetry or collages. Like all of when I first saw the competition, once again, I like taking opportunities. So this being something out of a field of mine seemed interesting. Like, oh, let me try something new. Let me see like what I can do. And by every single day, it just kept going more and more. Like, oh, first it was just like a screenshot of a Google picture, but then it's like, wait, let me add some of this. So each day, it made me become more and more creative. Like, what else can I add to it?
Yeah. Oh, so our challenge sort of helped cultivate you when and you that's awesome. That's crazy because like those of us who know you like personally on the e-board, we were like, wow, we didn't know Steven could like make poems like this. Like these are really, really good. Um, so that's actually really surprising to hear that this is really your first time ever like seriously like making poems because they were really good. And I know some people that made submissions, like they've definitely been doing poetry for like a good amount of time. And, you know, you won most submissions and the most creative piece. So how does that feel? I'm sort of jumping questions here, but I guess like how does that feel to know that like this is your first time doing it and you won two prizes?
It's weird because I just did it like this is my first time doing it. So to be told that I won is like really like I didn't imagine it. I personally didn't really expect to win. I just thought to myself like this is a good way. I do comedy at Say It Out Loud,
Mhm.
and through that I with every joke like if you look deeper into it, there's like meaning towards it. Like I do a comedy about Home Depot, and it's funny, but when you look into it, it's like oh man, there's a lot of discrimination in
Mhm.
U.S. So I wanted to do the same thing on the platform, but showing like the other side because you can tell a story in so many different forms. And I didn't really expect to win, but mainly to like share a different perspective.
Mhm. Yeah, no, it's awesome. And we could definitely see in like all, of your submissions, there was definitely like this narrative, and like this central theme. So sort of, going off of that, what would you say your inspirations are for the pieces that you made and pieces that you like might make in the future?
The reason would be my ancestors. I'm very traditional in the sense that I follow as much as I can about my cultures. One piece that I sent was on imperialism, and if you look to the far right top corner, that symbol is symbol of warrior for my people, and for us, that's kind of the motivation. Like remember the past to find out what your future is by deciding like what was my past. This is what I want.
Piece that actually won you the most creative submissions prize. So it's really interesting that you say that. And like, this is actually the piece that we felt was the most creative, not just out of your submissions, but out of all of our poetry submissions. Um, so yeah, how does that feel?
I almost kind of feel like crying because
Oh no.
pizza, um, it took a while to find because that is how my over there in Latin America, especially Mexico, we call them colonias. Here, it's called districts, and that was one of the last like that I found pictures of peace. The peace we had before the war broke out, and I felt it to be a symbol of like life, how it was and how it is now is not the same, but behind it you also see like the symbols and the little phrase at the bottom, um,
Yeah. Wow.
which means in the dialect is Mexicans to the yell of woe.
Hmm. Wow. And it's crazy because I remember we were like, yeah, we're pretty sure this has meaning, but like we don't know what it means. Um, like the symbols and like the background. Since you were, submitting anonymously, people that were taking submissions for that day, and we did rotate every day, they knew like that it was you who submitted it, but for everyone else in the e-board, they didn't know who it was until like after we finished, and we're like, whoa, this is Steven's. Oh, that one was also Steven. So yeah, how does that feel?
It's a good feeling. I wanted to be anonymous because
Mm-hmm.
um, again, as someone that goes out a lot, I feel like a lot of people know me as like a cheery person, like a jokester. But for this one, I wanted to kind of like submerge that to be non-biased. Like, oh man, like these stories, like they're impactful. Who is it? And then to see that the person who I kind of see myself as like a jokester. So like the person who is very much a jokester has these stories. Like it's weird is to see that a person that's very outgoing can have stories like these.
Yeah, and I definitely agree. Like that's something like I resonate with. Like all of like being an artist myself, I do like I do some poems, but even then, it's like the pieces I do, and I'm sure you've heard some of them are very sort of like dark and sad and depressing sometimes. But I feel like art is the best way to get it out, right? I feel like it's a way to sort of like channel your emotions and like your own like inner story and like put it out there. Which in doing the challenge, that's what we really wanted to do. We really wanted to just make a space for, it's a rough time, we're all home, we're all sort of brooding and thinking about some of these topics to sort of like channel it out and, have a space, to do so. Um, so I'm really glad to hear that's what you felt and were able to do during the challenge.
That motivate people to express themselves.
Yeah. So going off of this note, so like which submission was your favorite or the most fun to complete or just the one that you sort of like resonated the most during the challenge?
That one was the identity day, and I just myself on it was right identity.
I honestly, yeah, so the submission that you won with, that was for the culture theme.
What inspired me to do that is the top line that I wrote there, which was that um, I forgot when it was, but someone told me how because I told them that oh my grandma is is indigenous, and I might have accidentally said that I was, but the reason I say I actually we share stories of like our ancestors is that I don't know my native tongue, and I personally don't feel myself indigenous until I know my culture, know my dialect, and the person saying that, oh, are you do you even practice your culture? Didn't make me feel bad because of like saying that, but made me feel bad that the answer was yes. Like I don't know my culture because of imperialism, and especially now in modern day Latin America, it's shunned to present your dialect. It is shunned to have that last name that is resembling that you are from a tribe.
Mm-hmm.
because in modern day Latin America, it's more valued to know Spanish, it's more valued to know English. It's not valuable to know your own culture because for them it's seen as inferior.
Mm-hmm.
So when you go to the airport, and this happened to a close relative of mine that went to Guatemala, he didn't want to say his dialect, his tribal last name. He wanted to say his modern last name because that way he could get past security more easily than if he were to use that tribal last name.
Mm-hmm.
So it really is pressure to be hidden so much to the point that I personally don't know my dialect. I've learned a bit of it, which can be seen in the presentation, in that art piece in the bottom that I wrote, Musicame Suki Sikamaki, if I'm pronouncing it right, which means Mexicans to the Scream of Wolf,
Mm.
resembling relating to not only the independence of Mexico, but in the form that it was written, resembling to an indigenous group that I'm a part of.
Specific like branch of your culture was like shunned in a way to the point where it wasn't even like passed down for you to actually learn about it, if I'm understanding correctly. Like it's sort of like it was shunned and like don't even talk about it, like forget this, just follow the mainstream culture and like this is your culture and like that's it.
Yeah, we can talk about like our ancestors beforehand, where they came from, but when it comes in regards to speaking it or
Mm.
having it as your last name, it's like, don't do that. Like, if you
Yeah.
want to places in this world, you have to modernize.
Yeah. Yeah, well thank you for sharing that. Wow, it's definitely like really interesting, I think, to hear the actual like verbal explanation of the artist's like pieces. Um, yeah, that's awesome. It's also interesting that it seems like the one with the heaviest weight behind it, like heaviest meaning, also seemed to be the one you like appreciated the most, like completing. Um, why do you think that is? Do you think it's just because you sort of got to like get that off your chest, or is it something you're like super passionate about?
I personally, yeah, I think it's something to get off my chest because, again, I feel like even though I might not consciously know it, I think subconsciously it is something behind in my back, like, oh, don't say that I am indigenous,
Yeah.
or that I can't speak my dialect, stuff like that. It's something that I personally feel like, yeah, when writing it, I thought to myself like, wow, like yeah, this isn't something I really talk about that much, and it's sad that I don't. And through the art piece, it did give me a chance to write part of my dialect in it. So it picks up how life was before the war. So pieces of stories of what happened and what what ended up being the results. And thanks to that art piece, actually, I actually feeling like down because yeah, I started getting very upset about it. Um, the the platform actually helped me make this, which is a composition of amazing advice that people have given me and written on sticky notes, papers, or just like birthday cards from years ago.
That's
And
awesome.
it, yeah, it's a way of motivation, and anyone can do it. It really just makes you feel like you you are loved, you're cared for, and hopefully it helps someone else to follow in those same footsteps to be inspired as well through their own background, through their own history. That nothing should be shamed of. You shouldn't be shamed of where you came from
Yeah.
because it makes you stronger in the future.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Um, and then there's just two more questions for you, like before we wrap it up. So the one question is, do you think that Lehigh is a conducive environment for your work to grow and develop? If so, like how and why?
Uh, I would say Lehigh, for the most part, yes, it is conducive for the workplace because, especially when I arrived at Lehigh, it was something new to me. Not only that I'm the first in my family to go to college, so everything that I saw there was strange. Like I didn't know. Um, I haven't really seen like a library as such that are in Lehigh. I haven't seen any campus before, so it's a strange feeling. So
Yeah.
it has allowed me to be like, I'm here now. What do I do? That was the first question that came to mind when I stepped foot on campus was, well, what do I do now? Because the plan was to go to college, but now it's like, now what?
Yeah. Yeah. And I definitely see that. It feels like sometimes, especially when um a culture, not even necessarily culture, but just background or like identities that you have, like if they aren't the majority, I think sometimes it is that feeling of like being lost. And it's like, if I talk about this, like, are people going to be like, that's not relevant? Like, why is this? You know what I mean? I feel like when you have multiple like identities and cultures and etc., like you see things through them different lenses, and like that's how you filter your life. But if you're speaking to someone who doesn't have those identities, then it's sort of just like, you know what I mean? You're not seeing life the same way. Um, but I feel like when you make art, it sort of allows people to have like a looking glass, you know, like into like some of your identities and some of your life. Because I definitely think that like in seeing your piece and reading your poem and then having you like explain it to me now, it's like, okay, I can see, I can even like sort of feel like what you're feeling and like through like how you're expressing it. Um, yeah. Awesome.
Amazing. But the small piece that says no is that sometimes you find those groups that, yeah, they support you, but you also have to have those oppositions as well, have a bit of opposition to grow and understand other points of view. Again, it goes back to if you feel like you don't have a place, at the same time, if you find a place, thinking about what about everybody else? Like,
Yeah.
also, I personally feel like we also have to be careful of not being so endowed in our own like self that we think that we are above, that
Yeah.
everyone has the equal opportunity to share their stories, and everyone, through any action, I feel, should take responsibilities of everything that they do. That, especially in a campus such as Lehigh, I've seen a lot of, oh, just US in general, a lot of like, oh, I'm social culture and I'm being pressured, oh, I'm social culture, I'm being privileged. Well, it might be true, but at the same time, it's like on accent, like what you do impacts you. Like you have to take that into account too, and see like the different positions. Like you don't know the lives of everybody else. That's what I love about Lehigh. That my first year, I actually went to every single culture club. Even though I had no idea what was going on, I actually once went to the Chinese New Year's, and a majority of it was spoken in Mandarin, and I had no idea what was going on, but it was an enjoyable experience nonetheless.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I guess just one last final question, just to wrap up the interview. So how would you say that the community, the Artists for Change created, like through this challenge, like through what we've been doing, how has it impacted, I guess, your life right now, like being at home during this epidemic?
Gave me the community of the Arts for Change gave me an opportunity to express what I found about myself to study about because I was studying about this thing, but now I'm back too soon. It gave me an opportunity to express myself, and from here, it's all about that continued search of finding my culture, finding my dialect.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, well, Good. Thank you so much for, allowing us to interview you and participating in the challenge. And, there's only one other person actually who won two prizes. So you and this other individual, which we will launch their story shortly today, so you can see his as well. You two are the only ones to win two prizes. So like, how does that feel to know like you and only one other person, and he was in a different category, so he won for visual submissions and you won for performance. How does that feel to know?
It still feels weird. I still can't believe that I won. I just wanted to just it seemed like a fun competition. I didn't really expect to win, but it it does give like that sense of like achievement. You yes.
Yeah, and it's even funnier because the person who, the individual who won, um they also were like, I'm pretty new to this. They've only been doing it for like a year or two seriously. And they were like, this is the first time I've actually put my art out there with my name. They're like, most of my friends, like, they haven't, they don't do art, so they haven't really seen it. Um, so it's crazy that our two winners that won two prizes, in the different categories, both sort of have the similar narrative of like, still sort of new at this. This is sort of like, this is my first time putting my name out there with my work. Um, like, as one of the people like running the challenge, that makes me really excited to be like, wow, we got people to put out art that they haven't really done before, didn't really think was that great, and then they won two prizes. So but yeah, so it's pretty crazy to sort of see. I guess the lesson here is don't doubt yourself, because you're doubting yourself, but then, you won too, and the challenge was really competitive, had like 27 people actively participating. For performance submissions, we did have a little less. I think we had like 6 people that were actively making submissions, but even then, 6 people with 14 different themes, if you do the math, that's a lot of, poems that we got. So for your one poem to be chosen out of, multiple numerous poems, how does it feel? Like, I know I already asked you, but like,
It does give like that take the chance because you never know like how someone else might see your creativity. You might see it at one way, but other people might see it in a totally different perspective, and
Yeah.
it's good.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us.